All right, let's talk about something so many of us do without even thinking about it: over-apologizing. It turns out the reason we do it is way deeper and honestly a lot more interesting than just being polite. Let's dive in.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Have you ever bumped into an inanimate object, like a chair or a table, and instinctively said, "Oh, sorry"? Or maybe you've apologized when someone else bumped into you. It sounds kind of silly, but it's super common, and it's actually the perfect doorway into why this happens.
You know, the common belief here is that saying sorry all the time must be a sign of weakness or really low self-esteem. But what psychology is revealing is something else entirely. It's actually a highly adapted survival mechanism. Yeah, a protective strategy that our brains cooked up for some very, very good reasons. Okay, so let's dig into the first piece of this puzzle. It's all about how your mind interacts with the world around you. It's not just passively seeing things, it's actively scanning. There's a psychological term for it: social hyper-vigilance. But what does that actually mean? Well, think of it like having a super sensitive social radar that is always on. Your brain isn't filtering out social information, it's actively hunting for it, constantly scanning your environment. And that radar is picking up on everything. The tiniest, most subtle shifts in someone's tone of voice, fleeting micro-expressions that last for just a fraction of a second, the slightest change in body language. You're basically taking the emotional temperature of the entire room, and you can often sense a conflict brewing before anyone else even has a clue.
And this is where the sorry comes in. It's not about admitting fault, not at all. It's a preemptive strike. Your brain senses that potential for friction and launches a quick sorry to smooth things over, to de-escalate tension before it can even get started. It's all about keeping things stable.
So, you might be wondering, where does a trait like this even come from? It's not random. For so many people, it's all about the echoes of the past.
A lot of times, this goes back to being the easy child. And listen, this probably wasn't just your personality, it was a strategy. If you grew up in a chaotic or tense environment, you learned real fast that the best way to survive and keep the peace was to manage everyone else's moods and be as low maintenance as humanly possible.
And here's the kicker. Your adult brain is often still running on that old childhood software. It's still operating on a very old, very deep rule that your emotional and maybe even physical safety depends on you never ever being an inconvenience.
Now, another really powerful echo from the past is this deep, deep fear of being, well, temporary, of being replaceable. This often comes from childhood experiences where you felt like your place in the family or in someone's life was kind of fragile, maybe from emotional neglect or just feeling like you weren't a priority.
And you can see how that fear plays out, right? You start overgiving, trying to make yourself so useful that nobody would want you to leave. You downplay your own needs because asking for help feels way too risky. So the sorry isn't for something you did wrong. It's an apology for taking up space, for having needs, for simply existing in a way that might cause the tiniest ripple.
Okay, so we've looked at the outside world and the past. Now let's turn inward and look at the cognitive engine that drives this whole thing, the overthinking mind. This is where the real mental loops happen.
You know that feeling when your brain just gets stuck on a loop, replaying a conversation or an interaction over and over and over again? Well, that's what psychologists call rumination. You find yourself zooming in on some tiny detail, a short text message, a weird look someone gave you, and just blowing it up, questioning if you messed up somehow. And that mental spin cycle is it's exhausting, right? It's completely overwhelming. So in that moment, an apology feels like a quick fix, like an escape hatch. It's a way to try and shut down all that uncertainty. You say sorry, just in case, hoping it'll finally quiet the noise in your head. And underneath all of this, there's often this fundamental mix-up about where your worth comes from. Instead of believing your value is inherent, that you have worth just because you're you, you've learned to feel that your worth is directly tied to what you can provide for other people. So what ends up happening? You feel this constant, crushing pressure to be perfectly useful. Saying no feels like a betrayal. Resting feels selfish. And the second you aren't at peak performance, or you create even a minor inconvenience for someone, you feel this overwhelming need to apologize for it. It's almost like you're sorry for not living up to your job description as the world's best emotional caretaker.
All right, so after looking at all these pieces, what's the big takeaway here? We have to completely reframe this entire behavior. This isn't about what's wrong with you. This is about a mind that is brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly built to survive.
So let's just get this perfectly straight. This tendency to over-apologize, it is not a character flaw.
No, what it is a highly sophisticated adaptation. It's a set of skills your nervous system developed to keep you safe and to keep the peace.
Think about what these traits actually mean. They mean you are incredibly empathetic. You are hyper-aware of the people and the world around you. You learned how to read a room and navigate complex emotions with a level of skill that most people just don't have.
And this is the most important takeaway of all. You are not broken. You're not weak. You are a survivor, and your mind learned how to protect the peace, even if it was sometimes at your own expense.
So look, understanding the why behind all this, that's the first huge step. It helps you see these traits not as flaws, but as the superpowers they once were. Which brings us to a final question. Now that you know your mind was just trying to protect you all along, can you maybe, just maybe, start to let go of apologizing for simply being you?